Now, yesterday was the last day of the Premier League season. Most of the issues had been resolved, but not all of them, particularly the relegation battle, which involved Leeds, Leicester, Everton, and Southampton were already down, but Everton and Leeds had a lot to play for. In the end, Leeds went. Everton got a 1-0 win from a brilliant goal from Decore, who was actually the first game when Frank Lampard took over at Everton. The first thing he did was drop Decore, which was very strange. But he got them out of jail yesterday, and they were lucky because, their opponents came back at them. And the other remarkable result yesterday was that Brentford beat Manchester City, but City obviously have greater things on their mind. For the last time this year, it's a pleasure to welcome John Giles and Liam Brady to the programme. John, Leeds going down, Big Sam proving to be, as you've always suspected, as we've always suspected, a spoofer, and he recommends himself for the job of getting them back into the Premier League. How did you feel when you saw them go down, John? Or did you feel anything?
Well, I did, Eamon. I'd have a lot of affection for Leeds United. I was
yes.
12 years there, and to see them go down in the way they did, Eamon, was very, very disappointing.
Yeah.
Because they were just hammered, they didn't look like a team at all. I know Big Sam has only been there for 4 matches.
Yeah.
But he certainly hasn't made them any better. He's got 1 point from 12.
Yes.
And I see him in the paper this morning that he's looking for the job. I can't see how he's going to get it with the results they've just had, and the supporters were, all of them shouting for Bielsa yesterday.
Yes.
It was a very disappointing match. I mean, Spurs were very good. Harry Kane, brilliant again.
Yes.
But they just played them off the pitch.
Yeah.
Really, they just played them off the pitch. They were no chance of doing anything, Leeds, yesterday. And they haven't got any better in the last 4 matches since Sam has come to the place.
No.
In my opinion.
Liam, Marcelo Bielsa is regarded by, among others, Pep Guardiola as one of the best coaches in the world. He just got the job coaching Uruguay, who are a very, very powerful footballing nation in South America and indeed across the world. They fired him. He got them promoted, kept them in the division, and they fired him. When you look at a lot of these relegation situations, it's usually the guys in the suits, isn't it, who screwed up and not really run the club properly.
Well, I think that's debatable, Eamon, to be quite honest.
Right.
Some clubs have sacked their managers and done well,
Yeah.
Bournemouth, for instance.
Yes.
They got rid of Scott Parker and put young Gary O'Neill in.
Yes.
Parker was complaining about that the players weren't good enough. O'Neill just come in and got on with the job, and Bournemouth finished 15th. So
yes,
I think he did an incredible job. Roy Hodgson coming in. For Patrick Vieira, they finished 11th. They were, they were frightened that it might go down, so they decided to change. Wolves changed their manager; they stayed up. It's arguable. It's arguable, Eamon.
Yeah,
whereas,
Sean Dyche is another one, Liam.
Yeah, just about got over the line. But that table doesn't lie, Eamon. The Leeds changed their manager 3 times, I think, this season. Bielsa is a hero. The football he played to get them out of the Championship, and then he had a very good first year in the Premiership. But perhaps he did too good a job, if you know what I mean. The expectation from the directors or from the owner probably rose a few levels and thought, well, when they start getting mixed results, well, it's time for a change. But I know what the Leeds fans would say. They would say that we should have stuck with Bielsa. But it swings and roundabouts, Eamon.
Okay, let me ask you about...
Eamon, can I just say something there?
Yeah.
With Bielsa, Liam, they had a few injuries, and they never backed him.
No, you always said they didn't give him any help in the transfer market at the time.
No, what they said actually at the time is actually he hasn't reached our expectations. This is when they had a few injuries, all right, but they never backed him. They never spent any money for him, and they got rid of him. Like, if you look what's happened to Leeds, they'd have been better off staying with him. They've had 3 managers since then, and they've all done nothing. They still went down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
yeah,
that's dead and gone. But the supporters, I heard of some of them, a lot of them, still shouting for them on the weekend.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a bad time. They're going down, and they were totally played off the pitch, Liam, and they deserve to go down in the end. As you say, the table doesn't lie, and that's the way it's gone.
Let me ask both of you about this season and the demands made on players by the 6 weeks had to be taken out in the middle of the season to play the World Cup in Qatar. I think it was excessive what they had to do, particularly the Premier League players, and I think it affected the season. Would you agree, John?
Well, I certainly have. I do agree totally, because there was 6 weeks that the season had to stop, and they had to make up the game.
Yeah, and they were playing every 3 days, effectively.
Yeah, but I think in the end it might well have suited City,
the strong clubs,
because I think City had the panel to cope with it.
Yep.
They had a bigger panel than anybody else, bigger panel than Arsenal. Arsenal played the same team virtually every week. City were able to, when it came to the real crunch, were able to play players and rest players and win. I wouldn't take anything away from them, because it was a great comeback to go on and win the league the way they did. But it could well have helped them in this panel that they have in relation to the other teams. Yeah,
Liam, what's your take on that? The Premier League players in particular, the Premier League restarted on St. Stephen's Day, or Boxing Day, as you call it over there, and the players had only been back a week.
Yeah, well, that's right. I agree with John. That City is definitely an advantage for them, because they have such a big squad. But did you see the quote from James Milner yesterday?
No, I didn't.
I'll read it for you now, right? Because he's leaving now. He's leaving Liverpool, isn't he?
Yes.
They say he's going to go to Brighton, but he's been a great player down through the years.
Oh, yeah, great pro.
Yeah. He said sometimes it gets overlooked how it is all the year round now. So what he's saying, they're playing all year.
Yes.
For the international boys, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
Every other year, there shouldn't be an international tournament. Players should be given the full summer off.
Yes.
How long can this go on?
Yes.
And I think that's what happened this season. Players got very, very tired. Someone like Saka at Arsenal, he fell away badly in the last 6 weeks of the season. I all think it had an effect. Haaland didn't go to the World Cup.
Yes.
So he had a good break, it's been a very, very demanding season, and it's proved too much for a lot of clubs.
Yes, and the idea, John, is really that these players belong to their clubs pay their salaries, they take care of them. UEFA and FIFA have no obligations to these players at all, but they do want them. So they're borrowing other people's quality, other people's property almost, to really beef their own competitions up and make money from television rights. And that's going to kill the game, John.
Well, I think there'll be an uprising in with the teams, the top teams particularly.
Yes.
I might have mentioned it before in your programme.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, the Big Six almost broke away.
Yes.
Right? And I think there will be a break away.
So do I.
Sometime, because these guys who own Manchester United and Manchester City are very, very wealthy guys. Very wealthy guys. And they're paying the players top money, big money. They're playing in transfers and that. And you got UEFA and the other situation. Who are they, Eamon?
They're nobody.
Who are they? They're not paying the players. They're taking the players from these clubs.
Yeah.
Right. And then you've got the the World Cup, you've got the Champions League and all these players. Well, who's running these clubs? And I think the guys with the money in England and Spain and that say, well, what's going on here? These are our players.
Yep.
Our players are coming back tired, they're getting injured, and they're playing in a competition that there's no money in it whatsoever for us.
Well, there is in the Champions League, but there's now the Nations League, which is the UEFA competition. Liam, it is the case, isn't it, that the clubs pay the players They take responsibility for their players' well-being. FIFA and UEFA, who now have a Nations League, and in fact, there's two. This Europa League? There's a second version of that now. The West Ham have qualified for. This isn't right, is it, Liam?
Yeah, the conference. No, but they're looking to generate. Well, that's UEFA are an organisation that look after both clubs and the national teams.
Yes.
So they're trying to generate revenue for themselves through all these competitions.
Yes.
I don't think West Ham fans are complaining or West Ham players are complaining. They've got a final to look forward to on Wednesday, so they're all getting very excited about that. But it's the internationals all year round. They're not going to finish now till about the 17th or 18th of June, these players.
Yes.
And then, how long are they going to get the rest? It's like Milner saying.
Yes.
You can't go on like this. You just can't go on like this.
No, it can't.
But to go back to the Premier League, Eamon.
Yeah.
I'm just reading again. They're like Rodri and Haaland are the only two of the Manchester City players to start 28 games or more. You know.
Yes.
So that's how they can rest players and introduce players from across the squad. Only Haaland and Rodri, two outfield players, have played more than 28 games. So that tells you how strong they are, Eamon, how they can rotate all the players that they have.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you and with John particularly. I think there will be reaction to this because the latest thing is that Infantino, the president of FIFA, has proposed a World Cup every 2 years, which would be outrageous. And incidentally, Liam, he's been supported in that by Arsene Wenger, who is one of the brightest men in football. I just want to ask you two questions. One is about Pochettino going to Chelsea, John. Chelsea have finished, they're finished 12th. And by the look of the table, Crystal Palace and Fulham are above them, as are Brentford. If they'd have gone on for another few weeks, they could have been relegated. I mean, they're not far off the relegation battle. And they spent 600 million in the two transfer windows just passed. That's a car crash, isn't it?
Well, it's totally, I mean, the American guy, you got, what's his name, Bowie or...
Todd Bowley.
Bowley. Yeah,
Todd.
Well, he's in charge of the situation. I mean, he owns the club, along with a couple of other people. And obviously, he fancies himself as a football expert. Yeah. He got Graham Potter in, and he was the head coach. He wasn't the manager. And he certainly proved not to be the manager. This guy, there's no doubt that Potter wasn't buying all the players that they have now. It was the director or the owner, as we call him, was buying these players in. And he spent whatever you said, 600 million on it. But he's not a football man, I mean. He's buying player after player after player. I mean, in training alone, I think they've got about 28, 30 pros.
Yeah.
Top class players. And how do you train them? How do you coach them? If you can only coach about 14, 15, 16 players at a time. Yeah. Which means there's about 16 players left in the other dressing room complaining about not being able to do this and not being able to do that. And the manager's not in charge. I mean, Frank Lampard has gone in there, but Frank Lampard is on a temporary basis. He's no real say in the club. No. He might have been picking the team now. But you have to, if you have a club, you have to get a manager who is an expert at the game to do what needs to be done. That's why you employ him in it.
Right.
Chelsea don't believe in that. This guy doesn't believe in that. He believes he can do it. You get a coach in, you train him, I'll pick the teams, I'll pick the players, and that's what's happened to them. And you can see the state they're in now, Eamon.
Right.
And it won't get any better until he gets a manager in that he allows to manage.
The other thing, Liam, I want to talk to you and John about is Manchester United's season. They finished third in the Premier League, Liam. Ten Hag, the coach, made some big decisions early on, particularly about Ronaldo and getting him out of the club. They are in the cup final and they've also, as I say, qualified for the Champions League. Their squad doesn't look great. and I've been critical at times looking at them, but he has to be commended for the position they've ended up in. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. An excellent job, well done,
Yeah.
Champions League, they would have been delighted with that at the start of the season.
Yeah.
They've put a trophy in the cupboard by winning the League Cup.
Yes.
And they've got the cup final to look forward to, and maybe the possibility of stuffing Manchester United or Manchester City repeat what they did in 1999, the treble of the Champions League, the FA Cup and the League. So it's been a very, very good season. On the other hand, the squad, Eamon, could it match Manchester City next season?
I think they might get killed in the cup final.
Well, not what he's got. It could very well happen, but also they have the possibility of playing really, really well and doing something. Like cup finals don't always go to script. I remember Liverpool, Wimbledon many, many years ago. Well, Liverpool was supposed to kill them.
I remember Leeds and Sunderland.
Yeah, and I was in a cup final that we lost to West Ham, who were in the second division at the time. So there you go. So,
right.
But to get back to Ten Hag, no, an excellent job. But the only caveat that I would have, Eamon, is are they close to closing the gap with the team across the road, City?
Yeah,
I don't think so, but they have a transfer market to deal with this season. But who's going to be buying the players?
Exactly.
It's all up in the air who owns Manchester United or who's going to own them in a couple of months' time.
Yes.
So I can't see it happening next season that they can close the gap. But Ten Hag, they may just have the manager to do it over the course of time.
Yeah. John, just to ask you about that, I don't think I spend a lot of time talking about football to you during the games. There's a lot lacking in the squad in terms of ability, and as Liam said, you couldn't see this squad of players closing the gap with the Liverpools, the Manchester Cities and so on, although they finished way ahead of Liverpool as it happens, significantly enough to qualify for the Champions League. What's your take on him, John?
Well, he's done a good job, Eamon. You're not going to compare them with Manchester City, where Pep has been there for 7 or 8 years with plenty of money
6 to spend. Anyway, yes.
So you have to go on what he's done over the season.
Yeah.
And he's definitely improved them over the season. So it's one step at a time.
Yes.
Eamon. I think the Ronaldo situation, I think he could have done that a bit earlier.
Yes.
Got rid of him early on, because last season when he came in, Ronaldo was looking for a contract. And I think it took him a while to get rid of him and get him out of the way, because he was a bad influence by the time he was leaving Manchester United. And I think it's no coincidence that Manchester United picked up from the time Ronaldo went away. I mean, they became a team. So one step at a time, Eamon. I think if you look back over the 12 months or the season, he's done a good job. They're much better now than they were before he came in. So that's all any managers do. But he's, like all the managers, have a long way to go to catch Manchester City.
Yes.
But you can only do it bit by bit. And I think so far he's done a really good job for them.
Yeah, and as Liam said, and it's critical, we don't know who's going to own the club.
No.
And we don't know what kind of money he will have to buy players and indeed to pay them. And they've had the Pogba experience as well. Pogba's played 28 minutes football in the last 3 years or 2, apparently. But we'll let that go. I want to ask you now questions you might not like, or you may, but I have opinions, you have opinions, and the listeners who follow football love to know what your opinions are. Liam, I'm going to ask you for your player of the year.
Well, it's obvious, Eamon, isn't it? It's Haaland. It's got to be, coming into the Premier League for the first time. 36 goals in the Premier League. Quite amazing. We haven't seen the like of him before, to be quite honest, have we?
22 years of age.
Yeah. There's a few others, you could throw into the mix. The Harry Kane, once again, John's mentioned him. He scored 2 again yesterday, to bring him to 30 goals. So
brilliant.
In a poor team, you have to say,
Yep.
Saka at Arsenal, although the last couple of months he fell away. You've got Gundogan, who came on strong the last couple of months, and funny enough. Newcastle, maybe Trippier or the lad Isaac they signed up front.
Yes.
I'd put these all in the top 10, but the big fella for Man City tops the list, has to do.
Right. John, your player of the year.
Yeah, I have to go with Liam and most other people, Eamon Haaland. What he's done has been unbelievable, really.
Yes.
He's only 22, he can only get better. And he certainly has done what he was brought to do.
Yes.
Which was score these goals. I mean, he's been fantastic.
And he seems to be a great lad. He passes. He sets other people off if it's on, and you can tell by the vibe around him and the other players that he's a good lad. Like, he's one of the lads. He's no big head on him at all.
No, he doesn't show that at all. I mean, on the pitch, he's a team player. You get a lot of goal scorers that we've seen in the past. Really play for themselves, and that's what makes them great goal scorers. But this fella obviously gets on with his pals. He's one of them. He's a real pro. Gets on with the job. He's been a real plus for Manchester City. Just to go back just on a little bit, Manchester United.
Yeah.
If they could, Eamon, get Harry Kane.
Yes, absolutely. I think he'd love it. I think he's on the record as saying that.
I think Harry Kane, if he'd played for City, Eamon, would have scored as many goals as Haaland.
Right.
If not more.
Wow, that's interesting.
Now, that's the way I would rate him. But Haaland player of the year would be definitely my player of the year.
Yeah.
He's been terrific and a really good lad, Eamon.
Yeah.
A team player.
Yeah.
Brilliant lad.
I couldn't disagree. I think he has been a fantastic, phenomenal player. I must say, and I'm sure you both share this, my admiration for Harry Kane week in, week out, in sometimes teams that weren't really all having a go, to score 30 goals, to still be doing it in the last match of the season. He's such a great lad. I'd make him almost joint player of the year, but I wouldn't disagree. Haaland is. Coach of the year, Liam, I suppose. I know.
It's like the Oscars. There's going to be a clean sweep, Eamon.
Yeah.
It has to be Guardiola.
Yes.
For what he's done at City. Like, they're in the FA Cup final. They're in the Champions League final. Some of the performances this season in both the league and the Champions League have been outstanding. We've talked over the course of the season how some of his players have improved, the likes of Ake and Stones and Grealish.
Grealish, yes.
He signed a Kanye, the Swiss lad. He only paid 15 or 20 million for him. He's slotted in great at the back at City. He's very, very quick. And of course, he signed Haaland. I know everybody wanted Haaland, but Guardiola got him. And for me, he's the coach. In my top 10, I'd put the likes of Arteta. He's done a great job at Arsenal. They ran them close.
Yes.
Only fell away in the last 2 months of the season. So you'd have to put him, give him a mention. Yeah, Unai Emery.
Yes.
For doing what he did at Villa.
Yes.
He got them into Europe. De Serbi at Brighton,
yes.
The football they played, and some of the performances that they put in.
And they're in Europe.
They're in Europe for the first time ever, Eamon. It's a fairy tale story,
Brilliant. Yes.
And Gary O'Neill saving Bournemouth, and I would put him in the mix as deserving praise. Ten Hag, Eddie Howe, they've all done really, really good jobs, but Guardiola tops the lot.
Okay. John, did I ask you Coach of the Year?
No, not yet, Eamon.
It's not Sam Allardyce, anyway. Go on, John.
Or Jesse Marsh.
Who's your Coach of the Year, John?
My Coach of the Year, Eamon, is I've gone for Roberto De Serbia.
Ah, okay.
At Brighton.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with Liam and yourself. Pep has done a great job.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that, what he's done. But I think this fella, with the resources he has at Brighton, has been fantastic. The way they play, getting into Europe, they actually sell players.
Yep.
Get more players in.
Yes.
And I would. That's my manager of the year. Anyway, I think he's done terrifically well. Of course, all the managers you mentioned have done great jobs, particularly Pep in doing what he's done. But he has the resources to do it. I know he still has to do it, but he has the resources to do it. But when you're down in the Brighton area, I think the job he's done so far at Brighton has been fantastic. So
it has, yeah.
I picked him as my manager of the year.
Yeah, and I'm sure Liam would go a long way with that, and I certainly would as well. I just got Team of the Year, Liam. It's the Oscars again. I suppose. Go on, tell me.
Well, I've just mentioned them. The managers. Has to be Manchester City, Arsenal, and have done great. Arsenal were playing great stuff They were playing great football, very entertaining football, scoring goals. So they'd be up there. And Newcastle, they've turned the things round. They've gone from strength to strength. They've been very good. Brighton, as John has just mentioned, but it has to be Man City. Some of the performance they've given, and the fact that they're on the verge of winning the treble, I think it has to be Man City. They're 494 goals against 32.
It's incredible.
128 games, and another phenomenal season points wise. So I'd have to give the Team of the Year to Man City.
Right, and I'd go with that too. Not that people care too much what I say. I would go with that with one caveat, as you say, Liam. In this case, it is a caveat about the charges they face. 115 charges under the fair play rules of the Premier League, but we'll leave that to one side. And now I'll ask you a curious question.
Eamon, can I give you my Team of the Year?
Oh, gee, sorry, John.
I go with the two of you. I have to go with City. To do what they did was, at one stage of the season, Arsenal, I think, were 8 to 10 points ahead.
They were, yeah.
And they had to really, really play from that period on, and they played remarkably well to do what needed to be done. Again.
Yes, and I'm sorry, John, I've done that twice to you.
Okay.
I'm thinking in my own head, should I get involved in this or just let the real experts talk? I'll ask you this question, John and Liam. I'll ask you first, John. I have a definite one match in mind. Match of the season. You might think that's an odd one to throw in, but I did give you, I think, advance warning. Match of the season, John.
Yeah, I didn't get advance warning on that, or maybe I did and I've forgotten. Can you?
I'll go to Liam. Yeah, because I definitely gave Liam advance warning. Liam?
Well, I'm like John. I don't think I got advance warning on this one, Eamon. But
I'll have a word with my staff.
but I would say Manchester City against Real Madrid. The performance they put in against Real Madrid. It wasn't close, so maybe that kind of damages a little bit. I would have to say I was at a match where Arsenal were 2 down against Bournemouth, and it was thrilling, and they scored a goal in the 97th minute to win the match. So that's another one that sticks in the mind. Liverpool beating Man United 7-0.
That's mine. That's mine.
That's your one.
Yeah.
That's your one. But I would have to say Man City against Real Madrid as regards watching a team function like they did and play beautiful football.
I'd say here to that. Sorry, John, I've given you a raw deal.
I'll go along with that one, Eamon. City against Real Madrid. Yeah, it was like Real Madrid were by a lot of people, pretty much favourites coming into this match.
Yeah. And
they just played them off the pitch. It was a great performance in having been beaten by Real Madrid last year in the semi. So, they turned to know that. I would give that a very, very brilliant performance in the Champions League. Okay,
John, Giles and Liam Brady, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, to have you on the programme, and I'm really sorry for screwing up by not giving you advance warning of some of that. But thank you both for everything you've done for us and the listeners, more importantly, during the season. We really appreciate it. That's John Giles and Liam Brady. We're grateful to the lads.